All right, welcome everyone. I call the May meeting of the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission to order. Can we please have a roll call?
Yes, Chair June Hansberger.
Present.
Vice Chair Patricia Trouth is absent. Chris Duncan.
Present.
James Gross.
Present.
Glenn Johnson.
Present.
David Thiele.
Here.
And Jim Wong. Thank you.
I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dave Thiele, you want to lead it? No. I just thought I'd try. All right. First order of business is approving the minutes from our April meeting. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to look over the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Next up is agenda number 5 is oral communications. This is the opportunity for the public to come up and address any issue they have with us. There's a 3-minute time limit. Do we have any public speakers?
No public speakers.
Okay, great. I guess on to agenda item 6. Next up is special presentation and proclamation, 6A, the sheriff data report. Thank you for being here tonight. Sergeant Collis, do you have a presentation for us?
I just have the monthly stats. The one thing is the traffic citations, that's actually, that number is about 70 low. So you add 70 to that, that's actually the number. They haven't been inputted yet. But these are our collisions for last month. And the other thing I just wanted to speak about is a lot of the intersections, some of the major intersections here in Encinitas. We've had, the city has been nice enough to install what we call rat lights. And essentially what they are is a light that faces a different direction that allows us to enforce red light violators easier. And so that's, those have been installed, I forget how many intersections, but a significant amount. So we're starting to utilize those and get out there in order to enforce red light violators. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure that commissioners have some questions and comments, but before we move on, Amanda, I'm having a hard time logging in. I'm not sure what's going on. I should have maybe checked in before I started the meeting.
Is it everybody?
Yes, all of us.
Let me just go grab.
Yes, thank you. I think we're going to take a quick pause here.
What happens if we don't log in?
We can't vote. We can't see any of the maps. Like, I like to pull them up on my screen so I can zoom in
I
and
see,
out.
okay.
It's a couple critical
Is
pieces.
it just
No
you
other-
or no one? No one.
Nobody else, yeah.
Just your,
No, all of
everyone.
us.
yeah, they're grabbing someone.
Okay, fabulous. I guess, should we continue or should we wait?
Yeah, do you need the screen?
I just would like to be able to see what we're talking about, if that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it should be quick. I think that one just wait.
Yeah, our names are not showing up is what's happening on
They're
the
out
screen.
there, and so they said they'd just take a quick look.
Okay, fabulous.
We're slaves to computers these days.
I guess so.
Is this working, Abe?
Hmm.
Did you know there's a lake here? How about this one?
Those are,
That's in the golf course?
they're part of the golf course, right?
This one too?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not right next, that's, oh, actually, I know, I have seen that one. Yeah, that is,
It's a little pond.
it's
over
not right in the
par
corner.
three.
It's not, it's much smaller than that.
You gotta hit over on a par 3.
Yeah.
They're working on it, but if you wanna look at the map now. Okay, it's for this item.
Okay, we'll move on. Okay, while they're working on this, why don't we continue on? I'll just try to look at it on this screen. Hopefully for our other items, we'll be able to get the images going. Any commissioners have comments, questions?
Sure, Sergeant Collins. Just on that note, though, I'm just curious, are red light cameras coming back? Are we going to get those in the city again?
I don't know. I know we had them at one point, and they got rid of them, but I don't know. what
Okay.
That'd be up to the city to put those in, and then we'd take it from there, basically, but.
And you said these rat lights, what are they? They're just a light facing the other direction if you guys aren't in view of the light that is being violated?
Exactly, yeah. They're called that because they have the tail, which is a wire coming off the back. And essentially, it allows us to be out of traffic's way. And then we can tell when the red turns, when the traffic signal turns to red, and then we can do enforcement from that. So it just allows us another tool to, instead of being right out there, and everyone's obviously going to stop, they see us. And it's just another tool to help send a message to people to stop at red lights.
Good deal. Thanks.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Gross?
Yeah, hi, Sheriff Collis. Thank you for this. I found out that one of my friends was involved in a hit-and-run collision on El Camino last week. He was riding his bike. He was hit by a white Tesla. He reported it through the My Encinitas app. They said to get in touch with the sheriff's office, which I believe he's done, maybe even as of today. This was last week. The question I have there is he was hit, when you have a hit and run like that, and in this case, he pulled into the parking lot, and it was, I guess, with a woman. She stopped, and then she saw that he was kind of approaching her, and she took off again. Can we ask for cameras in the parking lots or something? Is there a way to actually continue to investigate it? There was a witness that also saw it, but they didn't get the license plate.
Yeah, with there's cameras everywhere now, so generally we do go around to the businesses, see if anyone saw anything. Problem is, a lot of the businesses don't have cameras that point towards the roadway, although there are some in that area that do. But I'm sure, whoever's investigating the actual crash should do their due diligence and look for that. That's typically what we do.
Cool. Thank you. I guess follow up on that. Abe, I know I sent you an email, and maybe we can talk about it now or later, but there's kind of like, again, a lot of collisions happening on that Lucadia Boulevard and Hymettus roundabout. I think we've got 4 in the last month. Is there anything we can do there from trying to, whether it's additional enforcement or other ways we want to slow cars down? It seems like there's been a lot of collisions there, but it seems like collisions are even up from what are already a high amount of collisions. Yeah, entering, exit, people running over the signs, running over the agaves, running over the, barriers that are there because someone else hit the light pole, then they hit the barrier.
Being a classified road, any kind of vertical deflection over there would require council approval. It's not like, I haven't even talked to fire about any kind of vertical deflection in the approaches, but assuming fire okays it, which I doubt, it would still require council approval. Other than that, I don't really see a solution. RFPs, I think there was a guideline came from FHWA not to put them on roundabouts. I got to go double check, but I think there was something that came out last year.
What was that? Not put what?
RFPs at the yields at roundabouts. I think there was something like that. I got to double check. It was, Let me double check on that. I'll get back. But I don't know if an RFP, even if we can put it, would really slow down vehicles. I mean, it might help with notifying the drivers about a crossing, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, short of adding more and more signs, which, I mean, the residents of the city already do not like the amount of signs that we're adding to the city, and their effectiveness is obviously always questionable. Let me think about it. Let me do some research if there are traffic calming options for roundabouts. I mean, the lanes already become pretty tight at both entrances to the roundabout on Lucadia. Maybe we can narrow them down even more. I think our fire minimum is 14, I want to say. So the minimum width at the entrance to the roundabout has to be 14 for our fire apparatus entering. I think the concern is if a vehicle breaks down right at the entrance to the roundabout, they still want to be able to enter. I mean, 14 obviously is not great for traffic calming effect entering the roundabout. It gives you a lot of room to enter at a high speed, so that can be a concern. Maybe one idea can be to install some sort of a flexible post, narrowing it down to 10 to enter, but they can run it over in cases of emergency if they have to. We put
Right.
2-3 bollards that are flexible, slow down cars entering the roundabout a little bit, but then when a fire truck comes, they can just run them over and enter. Maybe that can help a little bit, which is a simple solution, a white edge line narrowing and then adding a few bollards on the line, creating some sort of a lane narrowing, traffic calming effect there. Let me look into it. I'll see if I can find an option.
Thank you. And sorry, just on the fire is opposed to speed humps entering the roundabout. That's what they'd be most opposed to.
I can guarantee they wouldn't like the idea.
Great, thank you. And then, sorry, one more. So Sheriff Collis, do you happen to know just representing Lucadia, the collision here west of Hygeia, between Lucadia Boulevard and La Costa? You can't see La Costa on the map, but between Lucadia Boulevard and La Costa. It's just a residential neighborhood. I'm just curious if you know what kind of collision that was.
I don't, it's the one right down at the coast there?
Just east of the coast, just east of Vulcan.
I don't, I'd have to,
Yeah.
okay. I don't recall exactly which collision that was.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioners with questions? No. I had a couple. First of all, thank you for patrolling. I saw you out patrolling in Lucadia, and it felt like that was a new location that you were patrolling. So I just had a couple questions. Did you have, how many different new neighborhoods were you patrolling? And do you also have a new traffic officer? I know you said there was going to be a new one coming on board. Did that come to fruition? So I just wanted an update on that.
So when I saw you, I was actually at an intersection that a person has been complaining about that particular intersection, speeds, and as well as stop sign violations. I've been there a couple times, and I've found that there's not really much of an issue as far as violators any more than any other four-way stop sign in the city. So that's essentially why I was there, to determine if there was an actual problem, if we need to make more efforts there for enforcement, and I will be there randomly like any other four-way stop. And I'm sorry, the other question?
I was just wondering if there's a new traffic officer. I was thinking you might have you were saying there was going to be a new one, and I just was wondering if you got a new one.
So we had a motor deputy in training. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition, and so we've put out the announcement again to bring on another one to start training, and we'll make that decision in about 2 weeks, and we'll restart the process.
Okay, great. And then were you guys patrolling different parts of the neighborhood? I know that we have asked for more patrol in Lucadia, and I did hear from neighbors that there was some patrol on Saxony and Lucadia Boulevard, which is much appreciated. Did you guys patrol any other areas that were new or different?
I know we did make an effort to get out to the schools a lot these last few weeks. We've been having requests for that. You know, at the beginning of the school year, we really are out there in force, and then kind of as it goes along and all the deputies kind of get into their grooves of going elsewhere and going. So we're back to focusing on schools for the end of the year. So just that alone will bring us into different neighborhoods, so people see us more often. And then it's just very random. We get complaints every day. I get several complaints every day for different areas. So it's kind of as I say, a whack-a-mole kind of a thing where we try to go out to these areas and do some enforcement depending on what kind of complaints we get. So it's really very random. If you happen to see us, we might have just had a complaint there, or we just thought we'd give that area some love, as we say. So we're just kind of all over. The major thoroughfares is where a lot of our attention is done, but in neighborhoods it's kind of sporadic.
Okay, great. And then when I look at this slide is showing that we have 517 citations and then 31 collisions. How does that compare? I didn't have a chance, I apologize, to compare it to last month. Is that up, down for citations? Is it up, down for collisions?
I'm pretty certain it's up. That number is actually going to be 587. We didn't enter them all yet. So I believe we are up from last month.
Collisions, I feel like 31 seems like a lot, but is that pretty standard, or?
It's maybe ticked up a few from last month, but it's right around where we see. But if I remember correctly, I don't have the last month's stats in front of me, but I believe that has ticked up a few, but it's not completely excessive.
Okay, and one last question. If different neighborhoods have concerns, how do they get a hold of you? Is that on the My Encinitas app, and then that goes to you? I have had some neighbors letting me know that there's quite a few abandoned large vehicles down on Vulcan Avenue. There were some that people were living in, but now there's a couple large motorhomes that don't even have tags on them. Like they've got out-of-state license plates that aren't even tagged. So I just was wondering, how do neighbors report that so that somebody will go out and check on those vehicles?
Yeah, there's several different options. They can go through the My Encinitas app. They can contact my station, the North Coastal Station. They can email the North Coastal Station. That should be on our website, I believe. They could call the station and they forward it to my voicemail, which I'll send out to my guys. So I get them from different avenues, mostly from the city and from our direct email to our stations.
Okay, very good. Thank you for all of that. Any other questions?
I do, yeah. Thanks, Sergeant Collis. I have some questions on two of the roads that you mentioned that have schools in and around SDA, Oak Crest, and Ocean Knoll. There's a few red dots on Santa Fe and on Melba. Do you have any detail about those? Are those just citations? Are they moving violations? And hopefully they're not e-bike. Oh, they're collisions, yeah. And do you have details on that? Hopefully no kids were...
I know we haven't had any major injury collisions involving e-bikes recently that I can think of with involving kids. But I don't have details in each one of them. I know there's nothing... I hate to admit, I read so many reports. They all kind of... so I don't recall anything major. They are obviously all some type of violation occurred with somebody.
Yeah, no.
See somebody or do something.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think that's a good thing if there's nothing major going on. I just have a follow-up on the gentleman that had an accident on Coast Highway and passed away. His name is Ryan Curry. Do you have any update on that? I know that you said it's ongoing last month. And is that still the case? Do you have any details?
It is still ongoing, and we're still waiting on information from the medical examiner and some other things. Also, oftentimes with these collisions, we can't necessarily release a lot of information. It'd have to go through a record request process, and just the family gets notified of information. So some of the stuff we can't actually release public, and that'd be either the family or public records request.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
thank you, Sergeant Collis, for reliably showing this every month. I am a little more interested in statistics, such as whether our accident rate is declining over the years. Like, how does this month, this is for April, how does it compare to a year ago or 5 years ago? Like, we had this Vision Zero idea. Are we making any progress towards that? And that would be something that would be statistics. And so I'm trying to make this more data-driven, our decisions. And I know data is not your job or the division's job, and shouldn't be. But is that data available someplace so someone can look at it and try and suss that?
It is available through Switters online, and then also, I forget what it was called, that other information. Tim's.
Okay.
Through Berkeley, I believe it was.
Yes.
But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have all those statistics.
I think the links were shared with the commissioners.
She did, Amanda did send them to us, so thank you. We'll look at that, so.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got a little distracted down here. Did you get your question answered, Commissioner? Yes, okay. And I just had one more question. I can't tell if there's a red dot there or not on the map, but at, just a little far for me, Leucadia Boulevard and Vulcan, there's like part of the train fence is down, and there's like the wires are everywhere, and was there an accident there, or is that city construction? I also was wondering what was going on there.
Not that.
Oh, there's construction. That's a part of the signal modification at the intersection of Leucadia and Vulcan.
Okay, great. I was hoping that's what it was, but I just wasn't sure, so I wanted to double check. Okay, if there's no further comments here, I guess I did have one last thing, and this one is kind of directed towards our mobility manager. I was wondering, because we always are asking to look at the data and how the numbers compare, I was just wondering if that was something that you could do as our mobility manager, like, look at accident data and look at some statistics. I know we are very statistics driven, and as a city, I think that would be just great information for you to know mobility-wise, where are the accidents and how to promote safety. What are your thoughts on that? Not to give you more work.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the comment. Actually, the timing's good that you bring that up. The city's going to be kicking off work this week, working with a consultant on essentially a Vision Zero plan. It's a comprehensive safety action plan, which takes our existing local roadway safety plan, does additional analysis, and better aligns it with the safe systems approach. So that's work that we're beginning this week with the intention of finishing that up probably late summer. So that's going to be a lot of analysis working with the partner there. So looking at a lot of our crash data and just taking a more systematic approach and better understanding like the cause for, these accidents, and then, making plans and prioritizing work so that we can see some change. So yeah, that's all work coming up. Definitely. That'll be an effort across divisions. So working with traffic engineering, planning, city manager's office, law enforcement, et cetera. So we'll have plenty to report back as we get that underway, and we have some milestones that we'll share with you.
Okay, great. I think that will make a lot of commissioners happy to see that data. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sergeant Collis, for being here and for all the work you do for the city. It is much appreciated. Yes. Okay, I think we are now on to item 6B, Mobility Manager Updates. Do we have any public speakers on this?
We cannot.
Okay.
If we have 1 minute, I could help pull up the,
Yes.
What we need to do is just actually go to the internet and just go to our website, and then we can all pull it up that way. So if we could just take a minute
Okay,
to
so
do that, so you can all.
Click the close button. I saw you do that, and then what do I do?
Yeah, type in Chrome here, because I don't see Chrome. Actually, this will work right here. Microsoft Edge.
Okay.
And then
It wants me
your
to.
keyboard is behind the screen. Okay, cool. So if you close out.
Super bad. It's zip tied. That's helpful. and then go to agendas.
Yep, and then scroll down to agendas, yeah.
And then what do I do?
And then go to our meeting, which should be that
Right here.
first one.
Yep.
And then agenda.
And then what?
And then you can click on it.
Okay, thanks for getting us all set up. Sorry about the break there. So I think we're on to item 6B now, mobility manager updates.
Yep, no technology needed for now. You've got a couple flyers, old school, in front of you. Let's pick up a greenish one. Actually, let me tell you about Bike Anywhere Day. That's this Thursday. So we've got a lot of great stuff going on for Bike Month in May, starting with Bike Anywhere Day this Thursday. That's a regional effort of Sandags to encourage people to choose to go by bike on that day. So there are a number of pit stops all up and down the coast. I think 100 pit stops in all throughout San Diego County, but a lot of them concentrated on the coast. And the city of Encinitas this year hosts a pit stop that'll be located in front of where the Trek store is on South Coast Highway 101. Down there kind of south of H Street block. So our booth will be themed Bike Anywhere Encinitas, and so everything all about Encinitas. We'll have like photo ops and little props that people can take pictures to post of their commute or ride to work or school or wherever they're going that day. Additionally, we'll have fun handouts and stuff like coffee from actually we haven't nailed that down, but local coffee, VG's Donuts, other giveaways. Also, we have this awesome wheel of bike that participants can choose to come up and spin the wheel, answer a trivia question about bike safety, engage with us a little bit, and then win a prize. So a lot of things going on at the booth. That'll be a lot of fun this Thursday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can come check that out. And that rolls right into Ciclovia this weekend. So Ciclovia Encinitas will be on Sunday, May 19th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. This is the fourth time that we've done that event in Encinitas, the first time that we've done it in May. So we're expecting a great event. We've really had a lot of fun with that event since we started doing it in 2020, really seen a great response, and we think it's a great fit for Encinitas. So we're excited to have that in Bike Month this year. So coming out to that event, if you're interested in volunteering, please let me know or go to our city's volunteer page, which is encinitasca.gov/volunteer, where you can sign up for a spot. We'd love to have you come check it out or help us out at the event. Again, that's the 19th from 10 to 2. Other stuff. Really excited about a new class that we're offering in the month of May and in June. We have a 55 and up specific e-bike safety webinar that's on Tuesday, May 21st, and that's in the evening. And so that's really aimed at an adult audience. We do a lot of education for youth, and we've heard that there's a lot of, that we're having quite a few seniors or adults 55 and up come into trauma ER with head injuries. So we really want to give some emphasis to that area and offer education for that older audience. So, and also we acknowledge that, adults might not necessarily want to come to our regular e-bike safety classes that are made up mostly of 13 and 14-year-olds on e-bikes. So thinking about myself, that's probably not necessarily the place where I want to be on a Saturday morning, is with 15 teenagers. And if there was an option for a class that's specific to adults, that might be a lot, better fit or more enjoyable for me. So that's coming up. That class will be on June 22nd. That's on a Saturday. It really matches the format that we offer our normal e-bike education, but it adds in some elements that are specific to aging adults, really focus on mobility, things like getting on and off the bike, bike fit, really handling the speed of an e-bike. And for many people, we realize that, they might not have been bike riders for 20, 30 years. And so this really is a new thing and something that they really need to seek education and work on their skills before they get out on the roadway. So that's a cool class that we're offering that we're excited to have coming up. So please check those out. You've got the information on the flyer. And last, I want to share with you a approximately 7-minute video that we completed recently that's part of our Ride Safe, Drive Safe series. So the intention this year is to roll out a series of videos. This one is kind of a long format where it's 7 minutes and rather comprehensive. We can re-edit this and chop it up and release it more topical, shorter videos as well. But I want to share this with you today. This was first shown a couple of weeks ago at a city council meeting, and we intend to launch this video next week over city channels like social media, newsletter, etc. So on the big screen, I'll start the video. As a cyclist, all around the city, you'll find different types of roadways to travel. You're encouraged to use the type of route that is most comfortable for your experience, your speed, and your abilities. As a driver, you may be concerned about how to interact with bicycles on the roadway. In this video, we'll give cyclists and drivers tips to ride and drive in the right places and ways you can communicate to comfortably share the road and to be safe. Let's take a look at some of the different types of bike infrastructure out there. First up, sharrows. What is a sharrow, you ask? It's a pavement marking that indicates that a lane is shared by both cyclists and drivers. Sharrows are usually painted with a bicycle image with two inverted V shapes above the bicycle image. This indicates that cyclists may take the full lane. Normally, sharrows exist on roads that don't have enough lane width for cars to safely pass a cyclist using the same lane, or where a bike lane doesn't exist. Not all roads are marked with sharrows. Be aware that anywhere that a road is too narrow to share, cyclists are able to and should take the full lane. Cyclists, don't hug the side of the road. It will only send a message to drivers to squeeze past, and that's not safe. If you're driving and encounter a cyclist taking the lane, first, respect that they have a right to be there. And if you wish to pass, do it carefully, allowing plenty of room for everyone. Next, bike lanes. On many improved streets where lane width allows, there are dedicated bike lanes. They are often on the right side of the traffic lane and striped with solid white paint and may include green markings. Riders should always ride in the same direction as traffic and be alert of moving vehicles, doors of parked cars, and other hazards. If you need to exit a bike lane, always first scan for a safe opening, then signal before making a lane change. On busy, wide, or high-speed roadways, consider using crosswalks to navigate intersections. Drivers should always scan carefully for cyclists in a bike lane before making a right turn across it. If a cyclist is coming from behind, slow and wait until the cyclist has passed, rather than hurrying to make the right turn in front of a cyclist. Cyclists always have the right of way in a bike lane, so when driving and entering a bike lane to make a right turn, always yield. Cycle tracks, paths, and trails. Dedicated paths for bikes make for an enjoyable place to ride. These types of facilities can be busy, so please look out for each other's safety. Cyclists should always ride at a speed appropriate for the amount of traffic and adhere to posted speed limits. Wherever cycle paths approach intersections, riders must obey all signs. As a driver, use extra caution when crossing bike paths, and please don't stand or unload into bike paths. That's not just rude, it's dangerous. When riding on shared paths, slow it down and be courteous around others and only pass when safe to do so. Asking to pass on the left or using a bell is always advised. Generally, always stay to the right and pass on the left, and leave plenty of room for oncoming path users. When using trails, always adhere to posted rules about bikes and yield to other trail users. On many trails, bikes or e-bikes may not be allowed. Ride and drive alert. Cyclists and drivers alike should ride and drive alert, always looking out for one another, paying close attention to bikes and cars approaching and entering the roadway. Communication is key. When at intersections, both bikes and cars should always signal their intentions. Cyclists should always scan before direction changes and use hand signals to indicate left and right turns. It's simple. When cycling, point which way you're turning or point straight ahead if you're not turning. Look to establish eye contact with the other person. It's always good to give a cue that you understand what they intend to do. Both cyclists and drivers should be alert around driveways. Riders should approach any car in a driveway with caution, with enough room to maneuver or stop. Drivers should always move slowly and look carefully for cyclists when entering a roadway. Anytime you're cycling along a row of parked cars, give yourself plenty of room in case a car door swings open. And drivers, get in the habit of looking out for bikes when opening your doors. Be seen. As a cyclist, it's always advised to have lights on, even in the daytime. In daylight hours, a white light in front and a red light in back makes you far more visible to cars. For daytime, flashing lights are most visible, while at night, a steady pattern is better for the depth perception of drivers. Speaking of visibility, consider a bike with permanent lights, or put some on the bike you have. At night, it's the law to have a white light on the front of the bike and a red reflector, or better yet, a red light in the rear. Also, consider wearing bright or light-colored clothing with reflective materials and a bright or light-colored helmet. For anyone under 18, a fitted, buckled helmet is always required by law and strongly advised for adults too, and for Class 3 e-bikes required by law. As a cyclist, ride where you're visible to drivers, avoid sidewalks when possible, and note that in business districts, you must get off and walk your bike on sidewalks and dismount to use crosswalks. Your positioning says a lot to drivers, so make appropriate lane choices. Always choose the rightmost lane that takes you in the direction you are going. Also, while talking about visibility, you might be wondering, what's up with all the green paint? The bright green color is meant to increase the visibility of cyclists using bike lanes and highlight potential areas of conflict between bikes and cars. Green paint isn't applied everywhere, so always be on the lookout for cyclists, especially when making right turns and turning left across traffic at intersections. Ride safe, drive safe. Let's help to ensure we all get to where we're going safely. Make choices about your bike route that best suit your experience, skills, and level of comfort. Enjoy your time on the bike. When cycling, be sure your actions and your equipment make you most visible to others. Drivers and cyclists alike, let's all communicate with other road users, move predictably, and stay alert to anticipate situations and always travel at a safe speed. Let's all ride safe and drive safe. Together. Ride safe, drive safe.
That was great.
Thank you.
It was fun to see all of the city staff making cameos in there.
Yeah, totally. Plenty of cameos. And we had a lot of help from our friends. We had great participation and collaboration from Bike Walk Encinitas, Judy in the audience, helped out with the content and making sure that what we were doing was accurate. And then also we had great participation from the San Diego County Bike Coalition and also students and faculty from San Diego High School. So really great to work with them and continue to take that approach in future videos, working with our local, also support from kind of regional with the Bike Coalition, and then getting our kids involved and our students represented as well. So good stuff. And again, look for that to launch next week, and we're certainly going to be doing more videos and offering things in different formats, longer, shorter, etc. So yeah, that's what I've got for this month.
Okay, fabulous. Was that you narrating?
Yeah.
You did a fabulous job.
Yeah.
That was so well done. Thank
Yeah,
you
it's fun
for
stuff.
working and getting that for the community. That's really great. Is that
Thanks.
going to be posted on the website? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that'll exist on our mobility pages, like our e-bike page, and then launch through social media channels and also the city newsletter. So, and it'll always live on our city YouTube page.
Okay, fabulous. Any commissioners have any questions or comments?
I do. That was excellent. Really good. Yeah. My only comment would be, like you mentioned in the beginning, maybe slightly long for some people that have shorter attention spans than others. But I thought it was excellent, and I think a lot of people will not have some detailed knowledge that you presented there, which I think is really good. The Sharrows, for example. Yeah. I think a lot of people that I ride with still don't necessarily understand how to ride in a Sharrow. Mm-hmm. My question is, and I come across this a lot in right turn situations, and Sergeant Collis might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the automobile is meant to come behind the cyclist and not stay on the road and let the cyclist go past. They're meant to come behind and let the cyclist move across the driveway or where they're turning right, instead of staying in the road, signaling and letting the cyclist go by. Am I correct or not correct?
Yeah, you're correct. And then just to be observant. So, if you're anticipating making a right turn, to, use your mirrors to look behind, make sure that you're not going to cut someone off, and, really to give that space and grace to, allow for everyone to be safe.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I think one of the things you mentioned quite a few times is just being alert and letting people know where you're going. And that, I think, is obvious, but not everybody is alert. They're distracted a lot of times. So I think that is significant, what you said there. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. It was really good.
Good.
Thank you.
And yeah, to your earlier comment, the video, it's 7 minutes in length. And we did a video a few years back where, if we could package everything, and if we could tell our public, if there's one thing you can do, go to our webpage, watch this video. It has a lot. And, it's been a few years since we did the last one, so this was certainly an update to that, with what we think is a really nice look and feel. It certainly represents Encinitas, all shot locally. And, within that amount of time, we've improved so much infrastructure. So it really highlighted a lot of those things that you see around you. So, really helping cyclists and drivers to better understand what they're looking at and how to interact and communicate with others and just be respectful and all get along out there is the intent. So yeah, enjoyed doing it, and look for more videos from us, in the coming years.
I actually have a quick question about the right-hand turn and the bikes on the right. I think with all of the e-bikes now, you used to be in a car, and if you passed a cyclist, you knew that they were behind you if you're moving on a roadway, and that even though they were in that bike lane on the right, you were past them and you did not need to worry about making a right turn. And I will say, with the advent of e-bikes, it feels like a lot of times they can keep up with you on the road, or you are surprised when there is one that is actually passing you as you're moving in traffic as well. And as a driver, that has been a big concern of mine. Whenever I'm making a right turn, I'm looking behind me for an e-bike or a bike, so I don't turn into the bike. Like, we had that terrible incident on Leucadia Boulevard where where there was a truck that had turned in front of a bike that was coming down. And it is very worrisome as a car driver to have these bikes come up behind us. And I don't know if that was addressed in that issue, because I know that it was a lot of how to be a safe, remind drivers that we have to be more alert, looking for the cyclists, especially coming down that bike lane on our right-hand side. It's happening more and more to me. I'm sure there have been more than just that one accident in the city with similar, cross that happens there. So anyway, I don't know if you could address that. I didn't know if I noticed that in that video. Did you?
We make a number of, kind of tips or comments about right turns, but to your point, yeah, certainly the cyclist speed has changed a lot with e-bikes. We're used to looking for a cyclist at 5-10 miles an hour. Now that's normally more like 20 miles an hour, upwards of that speed. So, our advice to cyclists is we really encourage everyone to get a light on the bike because the difference that makes in terms of visibility is pretty huge. And as a driver, just to be, extra careful looking in your mirrors, over your shoulder in your blind spots, and be just aware that there may very well be a cyclist in those places when you're making a right turn. Different than, in the last few years, as the number of cyclists on the road has increased so much. So we need to kind of make that shift to expect that there may be a driver or a cyclist there and, be that alert.
It definitely is a big shift, so I appreciate you talking about that and just being aware of everything. It's great.
Yeah, and just to address that, just a matter-of-fact statement, but maybe it can be employed in the ongoing educational things, is for the drivers to signal, because as a cyclist, I get really annoyed if someone's making a right turn. I know they're making a turn, they're slowing down, and they're not signaling. If I'm not having a good day, I might tap their car or give them a little as I pass by, telling them to signal. So in these classes, make sure you tell cyclists, hey, look for a car signaling if it's ahead of you and slowing down, because that probably means it's going to make a right turn. And then, of course, drivers are bikers too, and they will realize the value of turning on your signal, especially if you pass a cyclist and you know there's one behind you. At least give them that signal, because then it becomes more of the bicyclist's responsibility, especially if they're coming up fast behind you, to decide what to do. So that's my only point about that issue.
Yeah, what is the law? Sorry for cutting you off because I know you're about to say, but is there a law, like, if you're driving and then a cyclist passes you on the right, like, as all the cars are moving, it's scary and shocking, so.
So vehicles are required to move as far to the right-hand edge of the roadway 200 feet prior to a right-hand turn. However, if there's a bicyclist in that bike lane, obviously that comes into a factor. So the reason why they're supposed to move all the way over, including into the bike lane, they're supposed to treat the bike lane just like any other lane of traffic. So for example, if you're going to go from the number 1 lane to the number 2 lane, you look for other vehicles, you either slow down or you speed up depending on what's there, and then you move appropriately not to cut off the other vehicle. Same thing goes for the bike lane. So when you move over, you're supposed to look for bicycles as well. If they're far enough back, then you move over into the bike lane to make your right-hand turn. That prevents them cutting across in front of you, and basically the bicyclist might have to slow or stop depending on traffic.
Thank you. And
Yeah, no problem. And something that we're working on offering, likely more toward July, will be a webinar, and it's called a bicycle-friendly driver class. So they'll be offered in webinar format that will encourage Encinitas folks and beyond to sign up and tune in for that. And that's just really teaching motorists how to drive safely and respectfully around people on bikes. So look for that one, and I'll be sure to let you know when that's on the calendar.
thank you, that sounds great. Any other comments? Okay, well, if we don't have any more updates, thank you for being here and sharing all that work that you have done in the last month. It's much appreciated. And I think now we're on to item 7A, our action item, citywide pedestrian improvements. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, we do, Chair. Alrighty. Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. I'm Matthew Edgeworth, Associate Traffic Engineer with the Engineering Department. I will be presenting item 7A, the Citywide Leading Pedestrian Intervals, or LPI projects. So some project background. In 2021, the city was awarded a Cycle 10 HSIP, or also referred to as the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, to install LPI, leading pedestrian intervals, and also pedestrian and bike improvements at existing signalized intersections throughout the city. So a little over 1.2 million was awarded to the city to fund both the design and construction phase of the project. So the city's grant application identified 46 existing signalized intersections throughout the city where LPI and other pedestrian and bike improvements can be made. The 46 intersections are shown on this map. So as part of the project, traffic signal equipment, including traffic signal controllers and conflict monitors, will be upgraded at various intersections citywide, which are needed to implement the LPI signal timing. We have a short video here to show what LPI is and how it operates. So let me bring that video up.
Really hard to make streets safer for people walking. We're here at the intersection of North Broadway and Lincoln Park, where we've installed the leading pedestrian interval signal. Leading pedestrian intervals give people walking a head start when they cross the street at signalized intersections by allowing them to begin crossing before parallel traffic gets the green light to go. The walk sign displays 3 to 7 seconds before cars see the green light. This allows people walking to establish their presence in the crosswalk before vehicles get the green light and likely increases their visibility to motorists. How do you use it? If the street you're crossing has push buttons, you must push the button to trigger the walk sign. Remember, look both ways before you cross, make eye contact with drivers, and when safe, proceed to cross.
So as mentioned in the video, LPI is an improvement to signal timing that allows pedestrians the ability to enter the crosswalk at an intersection approximately 3 to 7 seconds before vehicles are given the green light. The city currently has LPI implemented at a few intersections, including the intersection just outside City Hall at D Street and Vulcan Avenue.
Working really hard to make streets.
So the benefits associated with installing LPI are shown here. First one being it increases visibility of pedestrians using the crosswalk. It helps to reduce the conflicts between pedestrian and vehicles at an intersection. It also increases the likelihood of motorists yielding to pedestrians. And lastly, it enhances pedestrian safety for those who may be slow to enter into the crosswalk. In addition to the implementation of LPI as part of the project also includes the implementation of accessible pedestrian signals, also referred to as push buttons. So we can see here a typical picture of an accessible push button. The benefits associated with installing these push buttons include improving the ability of pedestrians with both hearing and/or visual impairments to cross any street safely. It also allows pedestrians to more accurately judge the beginning of the walk interval at a crosswalk. And it also helps to reduce crossings for pedestrians who enter during the do not walk phase. And these accessible pedestrian signals typically have audio cues, audio messages, a tactile surface, and also a visual cue with a light showing when a pedestrian pushes the button. The project also includes the installation of bike detector pavement markings in addition to bike loops throughout the city. Detector loops at intersection approaches can be found, as seen in the photo in the middle, within the pavement itself. So essentially, detector loops are metal detectors that can sense when a car or a bike is over the loop itself. And then when activated, loops place a call to the traffic signal controller, letting them notify that there's a vehicle there waiting to get the green light. So as part of this project, we have a couple locations where we are proposing to install these bike detector pavement markings at existing loops, in addition to new bike loops that are also part of the project as well. Detail A shows kind of the placement of the pavement marking itself, depending on the different type of loop. Also included is the installation of high visibility crosswalks. So high visibility crosswalks, which are the ones that have the 10 feet by 2 feet crosswalk bars, will be implemented as part of this project as well, at locations that currently have either an unmarked crossing or what we call a standard crosswalk, which is the parallel lines that you see in the before picture. And then lastly, as part of the project scope, we have a couple locations where we will be upgrading the existing pedestrian curb ramps to ADA compliant curb ramps. On this slide, we have a before and after photo at the corner of Rancho Santa Fe Road and Manchester Avenue. So in terms of project schedule, so about a year ago, we received authorization from Caltrans to start the design phase. And then last June, July, we awarded a design contract to a consultant, and we also officially kicked off the design process. And then over the past few months, we had our consultant take an inventory assessment of all the existing signal equipment throughout the city, so we can identify what upgrades are needed in order to implement LPI. In addition, 90% plans and also cost estimates were prepared. And then the next item is where we're at today, receiving feedback and comments from the commission prior to us heading to City Council for approval of the plans and also authorization to bid the project. And then next, we anticipate awarding a construction contract sometime in August if the bidding process goes well. And then staff anticipates starting construction either in late summer or early fall of this year. That concludes my presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm so glad that this grant was successful, so kudos to you guys and the department. I'm going to see if any commissioners have comments.
Question on the bike loops. Current loops detect cars. Do the current ones not detect a bike? I've always wondered that. You can see the little carved loop before an intersection in the lanes. Are these going to be more on the bike lane side, more to the right, or do current loops that we see detect a bicyclist?
So there's typically several types of loops. So we can see here on this slide, typically the circle-shaped loop can be found within the travel lanes, so either a left turn lane or a vehicle through lane. And then the loop on the very right-hand side, the type Q, that's often found within a bike lane itself. So again, the pavement markings we have proposed for both the circular loops and also the type Q loops, just because bikes can be, making a left turn at an intersection, therefore they require placement onto that circular loop in addition to the bike lane itself.
Yeah, got that. My question being, though, like the current ones that are on roads right now that we see.
Correct. So they can sense both vehicles and bikes.
Okay.
Typically, we can adjust the sensitivity. So if an existing loop isn't sensing a bike currently, we can make adjustments to the sensitivity of the loop itself.
And those are all metal detector? I always thought they were weight triggered.
They're metal detector sensors.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Johnson here. Yes. This all looks very good for us, and thank you very much for getting that grant and getting this going. I hope to see it up and running, at least at the Santa Fe corridor, especially before high school starts again.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you and Abe and your whole staff for putting together this report, because it took a lot of work since there's so many LPI ideas and bike detector systems. So that's a lot of work. I had a few comments. One is just the wording of one sentence in the report, which I think could be worded better. And that's the one that says the project scope also includes installing new bicycle detection loops in the roadway to help prevent cyclists from entering intersection without the appropriate call. And that sounds like it's kind of putting the fault on cyclists, but I think if you said something like it's increased the probability of cyclists changing the signal, so they have less incentive to run the traffic light. I mean, I think it's badly worded the way it is right now. Okay, as far as your list of intersections with an LPI, so you have a pretty extensive list, a spreadsheet, I think it is. I did have some suggestions for additional intersections, crossings. So I'm looking for the spreadsheet that has all the lines in it.
Is it this one right here showing the project intersection locations?
I guess that won't do, but I was actually looking at the spreadsheet, which is, I don't know how to describe it. It's, yes, that one. So anyway, I was suggesting that maybe you could add Santa Fe and Scripps Hospital, Vulcan and Leucadia, because you've already done Vulcan and D Street, Vulcan and Encinitas Boulevard, 101 and Leucadia Boulevard, 101 and La Costa, I did have some comments. This is actually relates to, I think his name is Badir. He gave a presentation last month on the Santa Fe improvements. And at the time I asked him whether, first of all, I complimented that the detection loops going east-west on Santa Fe will be marked with the symbols that you have here. I also asked him whether the north-south intersections will be marked as well. And he sent an email saying that no, they will not, that bicyclists will be expected to push the push button, which is really not very convenient. And again, going back to the comment I had about incentive to not run the traffic light, if it's too much trouble to trigger the traffic light by having to get off your bike, pushing the button, getting back on your bike, and waiting for the traffic light, they're not going to do it. And so if you're going to improve Santa Fe for cyclists east-west direction, I think you ought to do it on north-south directions as well, just so that basically access to north-south is better. Okay, so again, thanks for the amount of work you're doing this. I'm really eager to see it happen. So, just except for those few comments, I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Okay, I wanted to follow up with Commissioner Wong's comments. When we look at the 5 corridor, it has been my understanding, and Abe maybe can correct me if I'm wrong, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you have Leucadia Boulevard crossing the 5 and Santa Fe crossing the 5, it's been my understanding that those lights belong to, is it Caltrans? And that because they belong to Caltrans, we are not able to modify them with our lead pedestrian signals in this project. However, I do see that along Encinitas Boulevard has been given too. So I want to circle back and just ask again, can it be done at Leucadia Boulevard where it crosses the 5? Because we've had many conversations about that intersection is really dangerous. There's been multiple accidents. There is no left-hand turn lane, and I have almost been hit in that intersection quite a few times. So my question is, I know this is a long sentence here. My question is, one, why are they being able to be installed along Encinitas Boulevard and not at Leucadia Boulevard and not at Santa Fe by Scripps Memorial Hospital? Both of those corridors are equally as busy. In fact, I might argue that Santa Fe and Leucadia are more busy than people walking along Encinitas Boulevard. That is not people don't really walk that often up and down Encinitas Boulevard, but they do along Santa Fe and Leucadia. So can you clarify, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So with regards to the intersection at Leucadia Boulevard and Orpheus Avenue, you are correct. That is a Caltrans owned and maintained intersection. So we can't go in there and adjust their signal timing for their signal, but I believe there are discussions of them implementing LPI at their owned traffic signals. And then the Encinitas Boulevard corridor, so those are city-owned intersections. So we can see here where my cursor's at. This one's at the Lazy Acres intersection, and then the ones that aren't included are the on and off ramps, and then the one at Saxony, and then this first red dot going east would be the signal at Calle Magdalena, and then which is city-owned. And then moving on to Santa Fe, we can definitely take a look at the intersection at Santa Fe Drive and the Scripps Driveway Hospital as part of the project.
Okay, that would be great, because hopefully that one's far enough away. I would like to ask if maybe you could follow up with Caltrans on both Leucadia Boulevard signal and the multiple ones at Encinitas Boulevard, and if there is one at Scripps, at Santa Fe, because those intersections where you have cars coming on and off the freeway are just so dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists, I mean, for all of us. But this project is making such great strides in pedestrian safety that to have those gaps feels worrisome. So, and I know that I've asked this before for Leucadia Boulevard, but seeing it laid out like this, I think it just becomes really clear that we need it not just at Leucadia, but also at Encinitas and also at Santa Fe to promote safe, east-west mobility throughout our city. So that would be really helpful if you could check in with those, and hopefully we can get an update at the next meeting. I did actually have, I ran into the Caltrans people at Leucadia Boulevard. They were working on the signal box. This stoplight went out like a couple weeks ago, and I stopped and chatted with them, and I asked if they were going to put in a lead pedestrian signal there, and the two engineers that were there, they said they hadn't heard of it, but that they promised they were going to check in with their boss and hopefully get that going. But if you guys could also circle back again, that would be really helpful for safe mobility. Okay, those were my questions, and I think I might have had I had two more questions. Is the reason that La Costa and Leucadia Boulevard is not on this because it already has a lead pedestrian signal? Because it's a newer one, or was that just?
Yeah, so with regards to the intersection of Leucadia and Vulcan and La Costa and Coast Highway 101, so the La Costa and Coast Highway 101, I believe that has the equipment already in place to implement LPI. So the private development, the hotel, essentially rebuilt the intersection there. So I believe it does have an updated controller for us to implement LPI. And then when it comes to Leucadia and Vulcan, I would need to check the equipment there. Either it has the equipment available to operate LPI, or it's waiting for the left turn traffic signal project at that location to upgrade the equipment there.
Okay, that makes sense there. And then circling back to La Costa, if the infrastructure is at that signal, can you include it on this list, or is it not going to be included? Why? I guess that's my. If the infrastructure is there, what would it take to actually get the lead pedestrian signal put there? Or are you waiting on the development to do it?
So everything should be in place in terms of the equipment upgrades there. So the list before you is essentially a list of equipment upgrades. So that's why the intersection itself isn't on there. But we can definitely consider, as we're implementing citywide, that intersection as well with the rest of the intersections throughout the city.
Okay, good. And I'm sorry, one more question. Leucadia Boulevard and 101, currently, does it have a lead pedestrian walkway or walk signal? I mean, maybe not the newest one, but I feel like when you push that, it turns green for people to walk, and then, is that correct, or?
I would need to check. I know that the Leucadia and Coast Highway and the Leucadia and Vulcan, they operate on the same controller. So if Leucadia and Vulcan is operating one way, Coast Highway and Leucadia is also operating in the same manner.
Okay. I'm still confused. So you're going to look into it and get back to us?
Yes.
Okay, that was, sorry. I don't know how I missed that part of it. Okay, that's great, thank you. And just to clarify, if anybody is looking at this map, the reason that there aren't any of these going up from Leucadia Boulevard all the way to La Costa along North Highway 101 is because there aren't any stoplights there, correct?
Correct. We only have pedestrian signals, which don't operate on LPI.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. I knew that, but if people were looking and concerned that it was missing that whole stretch is because there aren't any signals there to deal with. Okay, thank you. I'm done with my list of questions. Anybody else? Oh, we do have one public speaker.
Chair, sorry, I did have one more question that I missed.
Sure,
So-
and I apologize. I should have checked in for public speaker sooner. Go ahead.
Sure, should be a pretty short question. So on that spreadsheet, there are some intersections. This concerns pavement markings for bike detectors. There are some intersections that have both through lanes and left turn lanes, but you only have one under detection card and pavement markings. So I want to ask, will both lanes be marked, through lanes and left turn lanes? Because bicyclists do turn left and go through. So they'll need to trigger both. So an example is El Camino Real and Mountain Vista. Also El Camino Real and Encinitas Boulevard, El Camino Real and Leucadia. Basically, where there are intersections, there are left turn lanes and through lanes, there should be detection symbols on both lanes, at least.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. We can take a look. So the way the table is marked at the moment, it is showing the left turn pockets indicated with the L and then the through movements without the L. So of course, depending on whether the street has a bike lane or not, we can definitely take a look to make sure we're capturing both the left turn lane in addition to any through lanes, or if there's an existing bike lane there that we can place the pavement marking on.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure you thought of that. Thank you, Chair.
Sure, thank you. Okay, Amanda, how many public speakers do we have?
We just have one.
Okay.
Judy Burlfine.
Thank you. Hello? Okay, there we go. I get 10 more seconds. Thank you, and thank you, Matthew, for this. Jim Wong knows we've been waiting a really, really, really long time to have those pavement markings, so we know where to put our bikes. So I'm very excited, and Abe, also thank you, that this is happening. The leading pedestrian intervals, I love them. I cross Vulcan and Encinitas Boulevard at least twice a week, and they're very helpful. I have two thoughts. One, I think we have the option between 3 and 7 seconds. I vote for 7 seconds. 3 seconds is very short and not really enough time to get into the street. The other issue that I don't know the answer to, but I think we need to put our heads together and think about is the people making right-hand turns don't really care if you have a leading pedestrian interval or not. So anytime I cross that street, I look the people in the eye and I stick my arm out and tell them to stop. So I don't know how we deal with that, but it's something that we need to have on our mind so that people crossing don't get hit by the cars turning right. And let's see, the crosswalks are really great, and like I said, the pavement markings are great, and I didn't have a chance to look at where you're putting all of them, but if you don't have one at D Street in Vulcan, we could really use it there. It's horrible being on that super steep hill and having to find your way to the button while you're on your bike. So if I knew where to put my bike to make the light turn, that would help a ton. Okay, I think I said everything. So 7 seconds instead of 3 seconds, and thanks for doing all these things that we've been wanting for a long time.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Could I mention that I think the speaker has a point about this right turn on red really is a liability to pedestrians. And so, I mean, ideally it'd be, you know, when that light, that walk signal turns, there's a red arrow that says no right turn. That'd cost money, but something like that would be ideal. I don't know what the solution is, though.
I would second that.
Thank you. I agree with both of you. I'm regularly doing exactly what you're doing when I'm crossing a street, especially right there at Leucadia Boulevard and Orpheus. I'm always putting my arm out, and people are still running it, and it's terribly dangerous. I also wanted to just address two things that our speaker just brought up. The 7 second, is that something that you can adjust? What is the plan? Maybe I missed it in the report, or I didn't hear it in your presentation. What is the plan? Is it going to be 7 seconds? Because that would be lovely.
So the goal with leading pedestrian interval is to make the pedestrian visible to a driver. So the approach that we took was dependent on the cross section of the street and whether or not it had parking, essentially, you know, which has the ability to block a pedestrian and a vehicle's view of the pedestrian. Our approach was to have the longer lead times for those streets that have the parking areas, and then less time for the streets that don't have parking.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like you've thought that through, so that sounds wonderful. And then is there a bike loop on D Street? I was looking, I can't figure out where D Street is on this map, so.
Currently, we don't have any proposed improvements at D Street and Vulcan, but we can take a look in terms of if we can add the pavement marking on the existing bike loops, or if we can add the Type Q bike loops themselves.
Great, either of those solutions would be, I'm sure, appreciated. So thank you.
Can I just ask one thing? So, I mean, clearly the LPI is great. I am concerned we're doing so much improvement, but then we have these big stopgaps with Caltran. And so what is the coordination with Caltran? Like what? So we're going to lead a pedestrian up going east to west or west to east. They're getting a sense of, hey, I've got this cadence crossing the street. And then when arguably they get to the most dangerous or the fastest intersections being freeway off-ramps and the roads surrounding the freeway, now they've got to relearn that they don't have LPI there. So it seems like that's a big liability that Caltran is not coordinating with the city to be doing LPI when we're doing LPI. Is there mandates there? Hey, you know, in our city, this is how we do it. You need to follow our rules, Caltran, or we have to take, when they want to implement LPI, that's different than when we do.
So they are in charge of developing the signal timing plan for their signals. But an approach that we can take is we can, you know, have that discussion with Caltrans and mention that we do have this citywide project where we are implementing LPI on our city-owned traffic signals, and that we have concerns on the gap portions at the on and off ramps to see if they're willing to at least provide us a timeline for implementing LPI.
Yeah, that would be great because I think if we're teaching pedestrians that they're going to get this buffer and then they don't get the buffer in the areas that I think are really dangerous, I think that's cause for concern.
I completely agree with Commissioner Gross and Chair Hansberger. And most critically, I think it's at Santa Fe, as we all can sadly remember. There was a tragedy there at that exact intersection in the off-ramp with an SDA student. And yeah, I mean, I think it's critical there. I was mentioning that earlier, that there's so many schools in that area, and it's obvious when you're down there to see the kids from the west side commuting on e-bike, walking, but it's a lot. And yeah, I think that LPI for sure, if we can press Caltrans if that's the issue, I think it's critical to get a signal or signals on Santa Fe in and around the freeway off-ramp. That would be great. Thank you very much for the report. Yeah, it's really informative. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments, again, I would like to thank staff so much for getting the grant money to actually fund this. That's the reason it's happening, was I think the tenacity of the staff writing this grant. So I appreciate that you guys made that happen, and I guess we always want more, don't we? So thank you. We like what you've got, and we want it in more places. So we appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. And with that, I think we are now on to 7B, which is the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission's fiscal year 2024-25 work plan.
Thank you, Chair. As you recall, we had a conversation about this last month at our April Commission meeting. The idea being we could draft a work plan similar to other commissions with the input from the commissioners, and then we'll present that draft proposal to our city council in June to hear their thoughts, understand their appetite about the different concerns of the commissioners and different ideas and goals that you might have, and then see if they want to add or maybe remove stuff from that work plan for our upcoming fiscal year. This coming fiscal year is a very tight fiscal year. As I mentioned last month, multiple accounts of ours have been wiped out. We don't have any funding in those accounts, unfortunately. The funding being tight, we certainly want to focus our efforts and our available funds into projects that are definitely supported by our city council. That being said, I did repeat some of the ideas that I had heard from the commissioners and I thought would be interested. Commissioners would be interested into the staff report. I also do have a version that Chair Hunsberger sent to me, not a version, but a work plan of our environmental commission that I brought a Word file tonight, so we can create something like this. We can just have an open discussion. You just mentioned goals and ideas, and we don't need to really finalize the actual work plan tonight. We can talk about bullet points, we can talk about ideas, and then I create the work plan. If you like, I can bring it back again in June. Or if you're just happy with voting for the goals, and then I put the goals into the work plan, and then you, without seeing that those goals, just goes to council, we can do that too. That being said, this is basically your item, commissioner's item. I'm happy to help in any way that you feel I can help, but the idea is to create a few bullets, 4, 5, 6, 7 items that we take to council and say, hey, council, these are the stuff that we want to work on this fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm open to conversation, discussion, ideas, anything.
Sure. So I just, I shared with Abe the work plan for the Environmental Commission. Commissioner Wong and I were both on that commission before here. And how it is set up is you basically have, 3 or 4 columns where what the item is, who's focusing on it on the commission, who's assigned, and then the status. It reminds me a little bit of our follow-up log, but a little bit different. I didn't know if this was the way to go. I also didn't have a moment today, I do apologize, to look at other commissions' work plan. Like, what do other commissions' work plans look like? Like, what does the Art Commission's work plan look like? What is the setup, I guess, is my question. So is it just bullet points that gets approved and then they work off of those, or is it more detailed oriented like this? What have you seen? What are commissioners' expectations? I think I would prefer something a little more than a bullet point list, maybe not as much as this. And I don't know if each of us need to be assigned to a different task, how it is on here, but what are your thoughts, Abe?
So depending on the commission, the work plan is a little different. Planning Commission obviously has its own process and reviewing projects, approving, denying projects. Arts and Youth Commission and our Park and Rec Commission, I think those, what's our Park and Rec commissions? I don't know. These other commissions, a lot of time there is a predefined role or defined role based on the work plan for the commissioners. For our commission, I think staff role is a little bit more highlighted because of the technicality of the engineering piece and all. The liability and the design immunity that we require with our designs and with our projects. So the way I see this, it's not gonna have that much of your names and your roles in there as much as your guidance and your direction and your review of staff's work. So the way I see this, again, if there is a way of, let's say, something like a new policy for a city, or doing some sort of a review of which cities have implemented red light camera systems or new ideas or innovative ideas, these are roles that I think commissioners can take on to say, this is my baby, I want to bring something to the commission, and then that can have a name of a commissioner assigned to it. But if it's a matter of a project, we want to implement this project, we want to implement this safety feature, we want to do traffic calming in this neighborhood. If it's a matter of engineering, design, and study, it would be a staff effort with your supervision and direction and guidance. So we can have both of them, but I would say the majority of the items that we'll have on the work plan would be items that staff would have to take on and then later on convert them to a project, hopefully with funding availability. But it doesn't prevent us from having items that are commissioner items, and similar to the commissioner-initiated item that we've had a few times, this would give a commissioner 1 year to work with the rest of the commission to make something happen.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think that does make sense, and that's why there was the commissioners assigned here. So whatever format you are comfortable with, that sounds great. I mean, it would be nice if we could, are you going to number them or set it up in a table or?
Amanda, our council is dark in August or in July? Okay. Maybe if we get to a good point tonight, maybe we can bring it. When is our June commission meeting? It's on the 10th. Maybe if we get somewhere good with the ideas and bullets and topics tonight, I can create the actual work plan and bring it back to our June 10th, and then before council going, because we are also dark in July too. So maybe I can take it to council in the last 3 weeks of June after our commission meeting. That way we'd know what council wants us to do when we come back in August. So let's just try to finalize those ideas and bullets and topics tonight, and then I'll put it in a format of a work plan and bring back the actual work plan for your approval next month.
I think that sounds wonderful. Okay, I didn't mean to jump ahead here. Commissioners, any comments?
Yes. As I read the agenda report, under general work plan items, I believe the first item ought to be to hear input from the public and the commissioners and recommend to the city staff that items be investigated or plan developed. Nothing in the agenda report mentions our responsibility to the citizens, and I'm dismayed by that.
Okay, thank you for that input. I see that is lacking here in our general work plan. Any other commissioners?
Yes. So thanks, Abe, for your suggestions. I think they're really good because you're correct that the work plan has to be tailored to the commission. One thing I do note about the Environmental Commission report, which I like, is the status, because a one-liner in the follow-up log is not quite enough, and I tend to forget what happened last month or what happened 3 months ago. So if you just have a column that said what the status of each one is, then that'd help a lot. I know on the Environmental Commission report, work plan, then at the time Eric would update, when he updated a line, he'd put it in red for that month, so we knew what changed. And I think if we had a status report, then it would reduce the questions that we have to ask you in the follow-up log, and also help you keep track of the status. I think it also helps if we have your general work plan items. I think this is what you suggested, that we should work on, such as Vision Zero. I'd like to know whether we have any progress on that and how we can help in that. ATP, what suggestions we can make on that. And also, so a combination of specific and general ideas. Thank you, Chair.
Nothing? Okay, so.
I can.
No, it's fine. I just.
Abe, thank you. I think reviewing and providing recommendations at each of our meetings is great. I think if we can maybe focus as we proceed throughout the year, depending on what gets funded and how your department is working on various items. And I also think if each of us are willing to kind of take on a certain area or agenda item, I think maybe it can be within our jurisdiction, or maybe it's something. I know there's a few things in and around my neighborhood. I know I'm close to the schools, and El Camino Real is my corridor, and I see El Camino Real cycle track on there, so I would be interested in that. But I think it can be with support of the rest of the commissioners. If, for example, if I'm tasked or to give some opinions specifically on that cycle track, I think that that might be something where other commissioners, depending on their jurisdiction, if they're on the coast and they have a specific experience and they have certain needs, then I think maybe that could be a little bit more of a target for each of us, and then all of us can review and provide recommendations. But I think this is good. Yeah.
So to make sure we're seeing it the same way and we're after the same target, or maybe finding common ground. Let me give you an example. About like a year and a half ago, I think it was Commissioner Wong, who suggested we consider these bike loop detector symbols at different locations in town where we had traffic signals. We all agreed that it had merit. We all had agreed that it's a good idea. However, at that point, we did not have a council direction, and the cost estimate for those was, I don't know, in the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 range, for example, for doing hundreds of those around town. So we did add it to the log, but then we had to wait for something that had council direction because it was in the traffic's work plan. The dollar amount, the price tag on it was not to the level that I could just go out and, at my discretion, use a good chunk of the funding available to the division to implement something like that because the commission liked it or because I myself like. I mean, even like we cannot do it. We don't have the funding availability. If it's a matter of, Abe, can you please analyze the sight distance at that intersection? I can always go and do it. If a commissioner, we do it for public. It doesn't need to be a commissioner. But at that, I mean, I'm saying like these lower hanging fruit type projects, we can always take them on. Being on a work plan, not being on a work plan, that's not going to really be a big deal because we'll do it. I'll do it. The division has the capacity to evaluate these, make these minor improvements, not minor with their effect, but with regards to their cost, the price tag. My goal, and I think Commission's goal with this work plan should be items that we are not sure if council is willing to consider, wants us to work on. Let's say, council, we want to work with the staff to implement traffic calming on Lake Drive. I don't know, I'm just throwing out a street. We want to work with the staff. Encinitas Boulevard corridor has all these wide lanes. There's a super wide 25-footer two-way left turn lane on Encinitas Boulevard. We want to work with the staff to draft a plan for traffic calming along Encinitas Boulevard. Now, that would require my staff to spend a lot of time designing something, go out, survey, measure, hire a consultant maybe. And then when it comes to construction, we're looking at a $1.52 million project. So we don't want to spend that much energy and time on a project before knowing council does like to take it on. So that's where I'm after. Eolas Boulevard, Eolas Avenue traffic calming. We want to work with the staff to come up with ideas to create a traffic calming project along Eolas. We had something similar on Sunset, obviously much smaller, but staff took it on, council blessed it, we implemented it. So I'm looking for, I guess, not really low-hanging fruit type projects, small projects. I'm looking for like the red light camera that was brought up multiple times. Council want to work with the staff, come up with multiple locations that we think it would be very effective. Staff will analyze collision history, will bring you a plan of how much it will cost, what it would entail, and so that's what I'm after. Now, obviously, commission, this is your work plan, this is commission's work plan, but this is what I think. Because a lot of times we put something on a log, and I feel like, well, I like it, it's a good idea, but at the same time, should I dedicate staff time and resources? We don't have any money. When it gets somewhere, council never directed us to do this. Are we supposed to spend time and money on it? You know, that conflict is, I think this can help us not to get into that situation.
Okay. I agree, and I do like David's recommendation, but, sorry, Commissioner Thiele, but I think you're correct, and maybe we will, you know, that will be something when it's coming through, you'll maybe want to sit down with staff and have a little more input, but we aren't going to tie our names to these projects, is what you're saying, and I agree, right? Yes, okay. But we all have our interests, and you know, if there's more bike loops, James has been, Commissioner Wong has been on that. So I see what you're asking for, and I have two things that I would like to add along. I liked Commissioner Johnston's recommendation to maybe also have somewhere on our general work plan that has wording that not only do we, like maybe we could even include it on the first one, review and provide recommendations to staff and city council on matters, well, I don't know where, but public, just to have the general publics somewhere. Can you work that in there? I would appreciate that. I also
took note
feel
of
like
that.
we have had quite a lot of community members come and speak about adding, you brought it up, traffic calming at Eolis. So I think, I don't remember when the last time we had somebody speaking about Lake Drive, which I'm sure it needs it. I can't visualize where it is at the moment, but I would like to add traffic calming on Eolis to this work plan, because I know that many groups in the community have been speaking here and also at city council. So I think, and I know that you have spent time meeting with a couple groups so far. Yes. So I just think that way, if it does get approved, there could be some direction. So I would definitely like to add that. I didn't know if we want to add, rethink red light cameras in some spots. I don't know. I know that that has been something you've been very passionate about, so I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I think, I think you're asking, I mean, the thing I would propose personally and can, of course, do work on would be maybe it's just a rethink of how we think about investing in all of our mobility infrastructure and taking some of the examples of what we've worked on so far, whether it's trying to get more enforcement from Sheriff Collis, which of course will be a budget constraint, I assume. A lot of the work that we want to do from a mobility perspective is constrained by budgets. I think ultimately we could come forward with a plan that could show through automated enforcement could lead to, of course, ticketing more people that are breaking the law. That, in turn, the agreement could be that a certain amount of that money created through automated enforcement could go towards safety projects. So you could see this great, cycle, so to speak. People that are continually breaking the law, they're being ticketed more. And the funding from those tickets goes towards safer projects. You ideally take more dangerous drivers off the road. At the same time, you're creating budget to go towards safer mobility projects as well. Is that like within our scope? Could we be so bold to say, well, we can fund our own projects if we're allowed to do automated enforcement, and we're able to take some of the, revenue sharing from those tickets that could then be guaranteed to go towards safer infrastructure? Is that the kind of project we can put forward, or?
Again, we can certainly put it in the work plan, and then comes council's review, but it's certainly something that I think can easily be added into the work plan. We'll put a two-liner in there that the commission would like to consider opportunities for the city with implementation of automated enforcement, what it would pertain, what it would require from the city side, legal perspective, revenue perspective, constraints, public outreach, and council will do your legwork for you. We'll do all the evaluations needed, and we'll tell you what you can do and can't do, and what's the catch, what's the gain. We'll do all that study for you, because council only gets one agenda report, but we have time, we have the energy. We can say, if you're interested in this topic, we'll spend 3 meetings on this, and we'll prepare a 10-pager for you to answer all your questions. That can certainly be in the work plan. Now, if council says, you know what, no, I'm not interested, at that point, obviously, it will fall from the work plan. But this is exactly something that I think can easily be added, and it's a good idea. I mean,
I like how you worded that, not just saying red light cameras, but saying whatever the wording you just
Yeah,
used.
as we say, automated enforcement.
Automated enforcement is great.
I just copied James. I didn't make it up.
I stopped saying red light cameras.
Yeah, automated
I got it.
enforcement sounds great, because it also opens us up to what we're hoping, could come down to our city if, not just running red lights, but speed, which would be fabulous.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to
constraint
have,
of most of our-
I think it's a good idea to have kind of a wish list, and then the status can be pending council approval, pending funding. But it'd be nice to have these ideas listed so we don't forget about them, and so that when we come back to it 3 years from now, we know that we consider it, but it is stopped because of this. So I don't want to see good ideas just disappear. So
well, we'll put them on the work plan. It will go to council as an agenda report item.
yeah,
and council can decide if they want it or not. So
Sure. On the Environmental Commission work plan, we had a category, I forgot what it's called, but there are items that were kind of gray, had a gray background, meaning they were suspended or we weren't actively working on it at the time. And that would be this category, the wish list. Because I don't think we should throw those away, but if we ever have time and money, then they're things we can work on.
Okay, that is interesting. I like that. But I'm hoping, can we at least add automated enforcement and add EOLIS traffic calming to, do we need to vote on this, or can you?
I'm taking notes. I do like how it's working. I'm taking notes at the end of the conversation when nobody has any more ideas or any suggestions that we feel we have consensus on. I'll read them. If you all agree with them, I'll just make sure you don't need to really vote on this one because we're planning on bringing the actual work plan next month. So I'll incorporate them in the work plan, and then you can see it next month. But I'll read it to make sure I haven't missed anything. I have written working with public in the general part of the scope, adding a status part to the work plan. I have Vision Zero. Vision Zero. Nick's, our mobility manager, is working on it, and obviously he will be working because we're not going to stop what we're doing already. We already have a lot of stuff that's in our Muni code. Council direction already has projects. We will come to council, to commission with a lot of stuff that you've been reviewing our strapping plans. You've been reviewing, you will be reviewing our speed limit, new speed limits in the city. Our Vision Zero action plan will be coming your way. So you'll still, like the LPI, anything that we are doing will still be reviewed by the commission. So with the Vision Zero, the fact that, again, it's not a very clear type of goal work plan topic, like what do we say in there? What do we want to say? We want to be more involved or maybe review and provide direction to Nick's approach with his Vision Zero action plan project. That can be a goal to say, because right now I don't think there's any clear connection between the commission and that effort that's going on. Is Nick still? Yeah, he's here. So maybe that can be a goal in the work plan, that we will be working with Nick's team and with the mobility manager on driving that effort.
I like that.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I didn't mean to say that. I was going to say, I like that. Does Nick like that? Okay. There's a head nod, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that it'd be great if we work cooperatively with Nick and maybe provide suggestions if we have some suggestions or review what he's planning on. So that's my idea behind saying Vision Zero, because maybe we'd think of something and that maybe he's thought of already, maybe we can combine them, maybe one's better than the other, that kind of thing, just working together.
Yeah, no, again, I mean, the good thing is we're all on the same page with regards to what we think is good for the city. The problem arises when we want to do something that requires money and design and implementation. So Vision Zero, everybody likes it. I'm sure if we put it there, council, yeah, great, go work on Vision Zero. But then we come back and say, well, commission thought that it would be good to add these markings on all of the locations that we had this specific type of collision. Price tag total $78,000. And then council will say, oh, who told you to do this? We don't have $78,000. We don't want to spend $80,000 on this. As well, you said you're okay with Vision Zero. Yes, but we didn't tell you, that. So we want to have a little bit more of a clear explanation of what our goal in the work plan is, what our work plan may later on convert to. That's why I don't like to have these general terms like we want to work on ATP. Okay, it's great, but like what on ATP?
Yeah, even that's where on automated enforcement, I wouldn't say automated, I would say funding safe infrastructure through automated enforcement, right? The idea is we want to build a plan that shows that automated enforcement will, with permission from the council, we would guarantee a certain amount of that money would go towards funding safer infrastructure and creating that. So I think that positioning, is really important and very direct versus, I agree. I mean, Vision Zero is a landmine that I don't want to step on because I think it doesn't mean anything anymore. So the more clear we can be, the better. I would also add the transparent reporting, right? So we can look at this, City of San Francisco does a really good job on this, but I think we all ask for better reporting, and maybe we can take it on with Nick, but we should just have a webpage on the Encinitas website where you can, just like with Tim's, but just for Encinitas, where anyone can go and look up collision history, could look up traffic citation history, it's easily, you can pull it, like if you look at San Francisco as an example, you can look by the type of tickets that were given monthly, year over year. It's very easy to graph it out. Anyone can see it, and you can see very clearly, easily spot the trends. It'd be great for this meeting, but I also think it'd just be great for anyone to be able to go in and see.
Go ahead. No.
Thank you. I would say that we should also have I don't want to say mandate, but a safe route to school as kind of a theme, and then work with Mr. Buck, and he has a excellent understanding of educating the kids and the community, and maybe we start to narrow designated streets and routes for the kids, and kind of suggest, and then gradually, hopefully, the people driving the cars will also start to realize that between 7:30 and 8:30, these roads are going to be used by e-bikes and kids getting to school. And then that will kind of narrow our scope, and we can identify some streets, and then help out, make suggestions. You could help us out to see what the possibilities are to narrow or add more signage. I know that it's going great so far, but if we could maybe work with Mr. Buck a little bit more, or help out in that regard, I think that should be a priority. That safe route to school, I think.
I think it's number 3.
Oh.
Am I right? I mean, the third one down under the general work plan, review and provide recommendations for citywide safe route to school.
Oh.
So great.
Oh.
Am I?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
It's on there.
Okay, excellent.
So that's good. It's.
Thank you very much.
Did you want to add anything more to that? Maybe just combine it? I mean, but I like how it's written. It's pretty wide open right now, so it does allow for everything you were just suggesting, I think.
Well, isn't that an example of just kind of a broad, because I understand what you're saying, right? Very specific things, budgeted, task-oriented, project, start, finish. That's kind of a loose one, right? I mean, it's just this ongoing mindset, effort.
The first 4, the first 3, I think, are from our Muni Code, where commission was built based on these 3 core. And I think the public relation was also in there. That's missing in here, as Commissioner Johnson mentioned, which I'll add. But right now we do have a school district liaison committee, where the school district, there are 2 members of our council, and multiple principals and the school district's infrastructure team, and multiple people from the school districts of the city and the different districts attend that meeting. It's a bi-monthly meeting, I want to say, right? And we do get projects from the principals. We do get projects from the different districts. Principals approach us, principals approach Nick, work with our mobility manager on various projects. And then we have been bringing them to commission. I mean, you have seen the last version, I think was 4 or 5 months ago, where it was implemented, but commission did at that time. Several of you weren't on the commission at that point, but it was reviewed by the commission. And we'll continue that practice. These projects and we have a dedicated funding for safe routes to school, so there is no concern. Well, there's always a concern because it's not an unlimited pot, but there's at least a certain amount of budget in our accounts for safe routes. So that will continue happening. We will work with the schools, with our mobility manager. We'll identify potential projects, and we'll bring them for commission to review.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, slightly off the topic, but I have a question for the mobility manager. What's the status of the mobility element?
I can answer that. It's that effort is although the name is very similar. That mobility element update is not handled by our mobility manager or myself. It's handled by our development services department, by our planning team. It's at its final stages. I don't think it has gone to planning commission yet, but I will make sure that before it goes there, the mobility commission gets to review it one more time. They did provide an update to the commission several months ago, I believe. Their impact analysis guidelines, they're working with the staff to finalize the development's impact analysis guidelines. The classification of roads, I believe, is final. They're working on their cross sections of different roadway classifications of the city. But the study is not finished, but they're at very, very final, like latest stages of the study.
Yeah, I bring that up because it's going to state the classification of roads and change some of the vocabulary. As I recall, something like 20 years ago, the circulation element was due to be redone, and we finally decided to call it a mobility element about 5 years ago. And I'm just waiting to see, because that's going to impact some of the things that we do. And I don't know that we need to have an action item to do anything for it, but we need to be made aware of it at least.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
Yeah, all these things are throughout the city, right? I mean, the citywide signal timing optimization, these are very non-location specific. How would, the thing that keeps coming to my mind is more forward future is the high density housing elements coming in, whether it be Quail Gardens or the one at Santa Fe and Encinitas, or any of the others for that matter. But those are the two that kind of resonate with me. We've heard the residents worried about parking impacts and all that going forward. Is there anything here or something about planning ahead of time in advance of whether it be with the construction of those as well as when they're done, and trying to be as forward thinking as we can about maybe some of these intersection things that we're looking at, maybe some of those intersections aren't on this radar because they're not issues yet. But let's take a look at these high development areas and see where we should specifically apply some of these things that aren't right now either in the plan or added safety or mobility elements. Because I can just already see, and I think it was last week on Santa Fe, they were unloading equipment. They're going to start that. And it was like right at rush hour in the morning. And I didn't get stuck in it, but my client did. We had a meeting, and he sat there for like 25 minutes in gridlock on Rancho Santa Fe. And that's not so much a safety issue, I get it, but just I'm thinking about that in terms of how can we, this development's going to happen, right? It's done. The parking issues, I don't know how that's going to be dealt with, but then now let's talk about just, okay, once it's done or during the process, is there anything we could do or discuss to help mitigate or ideally prevent, but manage issues from becoming issues?
So when it comes to connecting those potential future impacts to the development and asking for any kind of improvement or any kind of mitigation associated with the specific development's impact, that would be Planning Commission's purview. So we cannot talk about, no, we cannot, but it's always been Planning Commission who would condition them, review the impacts, any kind of environmental review, including traffic impact review, is on Planning Commission. That aside, last year we started this study. The consultant was hired. The study was presented to Commission called Improvement Opportunities in the Vicinities of Development Projects. So a consultant was hired. They evaluated all the impacts of all these development projects happening in the city cumulatively and identified on various roads of the city various types of improvement projects. A long list of projects were developed, just concept ideas. They went to council. Council about 6 months ago chose top 8 of those projects, approved the consultant design improvements associated with those projects up to 30%, and then come back. Those we can bring them to you next month, I think. I don't know if Matthew's still here. Yes. And then we go to council if time allows to council. The plan is for June council, Matthew? Late June, yeah. If council blesses them, that's the end point of our existing budget right now, because they're not funded projects. But that very much lines up with what I heard from you. Those were the top priorities of council. We can identify other projects out of that huge list or find new projects that maybe are missing. There were community meetings, people provided their input, residents talked about improvements they do like to see in the neighborhoods because of those development projects. So there has been a good amount of legwork already done. How those can convert to actual improvement projects, that's a different story. I can think of finding a way to create a continuation of because that effort would stop in June at council unless council wants to give us new direction. We are presenting 8 projects, 30% design and cost estimate to council, and say these are the stuff that you told us to do. But there's none of them are funded, and none of them even have a complete design. Maybe what you're suggesting can be pick that up and run with those 8 projects and bringing them to a fruition. Okay, council, these are the projects you liked. We finalized the design at the end of our work plan. Worked with the staff. This is the design. Please give the money to build it. That's the connection I see between what you said and the efforts that have already happened.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they already did that consultant evaluation too, and again, Paul J's being the new guy here, if that's been shared with the commission.
We certainly can share it with you, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners with ideas? I have one other thing I wanted to say that I don't see on here, and that was a big part of our last couple meetings, was parking. So are we still review and provide recommendations? Does that parking plan fall in one of those top 4, you think? Do we need to add, review permit parking for the city?
I think it's bold enough to be its own standalone item, not be a general. I can
Okay,
add
and
it.
I'm not sure if now the council feels like they're taking that on. I know there is there's the consultant we've hired, but I was thinking that they would come back and present to us. So
Definitely, yes.
I think permit parking going to what you were saying with all the new development and, just how the rules are trying to get, I guess, finalized here for the city on how that's going to happen. I think it's a pretty big deal. If you start getting multiple neighborhoods asking and requesting for permit parking, I'm concerned. So I think that would be something we should look over. So that I think would be great. The other one is I keep hearing the discussion of the budget, and obviously the budget is really bad. And I know that there was a separate, not a commission, but a task force that looked at all of the infrastructure needs of the city. And they, correct me if I'm wrong, basically came together with a list of all of the projects, prioritize them, and how much money we needed to fund them all. And it far, far exceeded the current city's budget. And what that infrastructure group has recommended, I think, is a tax measure. Is that correct? So I was wondering, is anybody going to speak to that, to our commission about what that tax measure is and what it, how it would go about funding? Or can somebody here tonight just, share a little bit about that? I know that.
Yeah, it was called Infrastructure Task Force. They had very regular meetings. It was our CIP team that was handling it. I can ask our principal engineer to provide a summary report. My involvement was very, very limited. We did provide a list of projects that we thought the city would require funding for, and it was added to the pot. Yeah, as you said, the number was huge, and but what the status of that tax measure is, I know there has been some surveys going on in the city, some public input was provided, but again, my involvement was limited. I can ask for more information about what the status of that tax measure is.
I think that it is, I think that it's being presented to council. I don't want to say the wrong date, but I know it's at one of the upcoming meetings it's either this month or next month. So I think that would be very helpful for all of us if maybe Engineer Bankston, did I say her name right? How do I say her name? Jill?
Jill Bankston is our director
Yeah.
of engineering.
Or
Yes.
whoever. I know that she has been sharing information about the tax measure and how it works and what it would fund. And it sounds like it would definitely help our budget fund a lot of the projects that we needed. So I think that might be interesting. If it's not too late, if it's already gone to council and they voted on it. But I don't know, maybe it would be something worth sharing with this commission and the public in a different venue. So, because we have so many public speakers that want improvements on their roads, and if we can't fund them, even if we think they're a great idea and you can design them, if we can't fund them, they can't go anywhere, right? So maybe that would be my request.
Yeah, I see two ways. One is your commission's involvement into that ballot preparation and the explanation or whatever justification we want to add to the ballot for November, which is a very short window if council wants you involved, because again, that infrastructure task force is already there, and I think it's a similar group. The second one is if it goes through, and depending on when it rolls in, I don't know if it's going to be January 25 or that quick, or it's going to be 26. I don't know how it's going to work. But then afterwards, if it passes, it could be on commission's work plan to monitor or direct usage of that additional transportation funding that's definitely in there, because it's going to be a big amount of money. Somebody would have to tell us or council, hey, you're getting an extra $5 million a year. This is how we suggest you implement it. So that's the second, but that's, I guess, post approval by public, like if public votes for it.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I wasn't actually suggesting that we put this on our work plan. I was actually sidebarring and requesting that maybe we get some information about it, and that, that
I
that
can
she
ask
could
the
come and
principal
speak.
engineer.
Yeah, if she could come speak and share that with us about budget, I think that would be really helpful, and how the tax measure works. I think that would be important. So I don't know if she can do that before it's been approved by council. I don't know, but if you could.
Yeah, I'll check the dates. Yeah, I don't think our director attended those ITF meetings. One of our principal engineers who reports to her was managing that task force. But yeah, I'll figure out how.
I think.
I mean, as you said, if it's going to go to council before our next meeting, then I think it's just.
Yeah, well, true, but I guess then it will be on the ballot, so then maybe it would be great if she could come and explain what it
Helpful,
is.
okay.
Because, the public will be interested in being asked to vote on it, so I think a public information would be
Sure.
much appreciated. And I know that she is actively involved in sharing information about it currently, so hopefully that will work out. Okay. Okay, I think if nobody has anything else about our current work plan, did you want to summarize that for us?
Yes. So I have the addition of working with public and communication with public into the scope, adding a status column and keeping the old ones, and then providing longer comments and not removing any previous comments so we can track progress in the upcoming years. I have Vision Zero, which I think we decided to hold off or just work with Nick on that. So we'll do I'll get the exact title. It's not Vision Zero Action Plan. It's
Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
Comprehensive Safety Action. Well, I'll add it in there. Traffic calming on EOLAS, funding projects. I guess, some sort of a business plan, or we'll call it something, funding projects via automated enforcement, collisions and citation portal, something like Tim's or something like Sweeters, where we work with our sheriff's department to have some. Obviously, there are a lot of legal aspects of it that I have to figure out how. But I mean, if Sweeters is doing it, Tim's is doing it, I'm sure we can. I mean, Sandag is doing it too. So there should be a way for us to provide some good information to public. Review mobility element, continue reviewing mobility element, continue reviewing permit parking program, and then involvement in the vicinity project improvements continuation. So I'll figure out the proper explanation for it on how commission can present to council its role in continuing that project. And then the ITF review, which is not a work plan item, but I'll take a note and then I'll talk to Jill to see if we can have our, Matt Widelski is our principal engineer in charge of that. I'll see if Matt can come here next month and provide a report.
Okay, thank you. That sounds wonderful. I appreciate all the time we spent working on that. I think we made some good headway. That puts us up to item number 8, City Traffic Engineer Report. A is the Safety and Mobility Project updates.
These are our ongoing projects. If there are any questions about any of these, I can provide.
It looks good to me. I don't have any questions at the moment. Any other commissioners? Okay. Then we're on to item B, Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission log.
Abe, I have one here. I didn't ask, should have asked last month, apologies. It says on the project details, number 67. Sounds like you talked to the, around the safe routes with Paul Ecke, and you had a community meeting on March 18th. Just curious if there was a follow-up on that.
So after that meeting, the school district liaison committee, the two council members, I think it's Mayor and Councilmember Henze or Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think it was Deputy Mayor Lyons. They were discussing with the district, and based on the feedback they got from public, schools' level of interest and everything together, they decided to put that project on hold for now. Something else that we're working on is to be able to create a path. Council did provide a, don't quote me on the number, I think somewhere around 100K, again, don't quote me on the exact number, to do a design to connect the path on top of the park, through the park, all the way down to the parking lot. So bikers can come all the way through the park in a spiral form.
Cool.
And be able to ride there. But obviously it's not design money, it's not construction money, but to see the feasibility of connecting that side of the park, higher area, to the school, so they don't have to use really the Hermes if they're coming from the neighborhood. So it's a good idea, it's a good concept, but we got to see about the feasibility and how we can maneuver around the trees there with minimal impact to the park.
Are you talking about access through this? Because currently it's a really steep set of stairs. Is that what, to
Correct.
go down? Okay.
So basically go around the stairs and just come down in
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, that would be
a
cool.
slalom shaped.
Yeah.
And sorry, just on the feedback from the public, it's just, this was on specifically trying to shut down a part of the road. I can never remember all those roads that interconnect right there, but it was
The major concern was the parking impact.
Yep.
The loss of parking, obviously about 6, 7, 8 parking spaces would be lost, and the fact that it would come with an RFB in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and they were concerned that there would be some like ambient lighting and
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I was curious on that. It sounds like a cool idea, though, potentially as a second solve. Sorry, and then number 70, just while I'm here, so I brought it up with Sheriff Collis. I know we had talked about Leucadia roundabout signage and it's all, of course, it's getting knocked down at the roundabout. I'm just curious, Abe, if you think signage is going to help there, or we need something more.
I mean, signage in Leucadia, specifically Leucadia is a neighborhood that we're getting a lot of negative feedback with regards to the number of signs we have over there. So I would be hesitant to add more signs in Leucadia.
It is just a couple people on a certain street. Isn't it just the same? I sometimes get a little concerned that the voices that are loudest are not always the majority. So, but
I mean,
this is
I
like
worked at
Leucadia
5
Boulevard,
different
so-
cities in Southern California. It's like this almost everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
I guess this is, as James said, this is Leucadia Boulevard. So it's not going to be in somebody's window. You know, nobody really has a driveway off Leucadia Boulevard in this stretch. So anyway,
Yeah, and again, I also take your point, Abe, that signage might not work here. So, just it's on this list. It's been on this list for a while.
I mean, to protect it after it happens would be the rigid bollards out of the roundabout. So if somebody runs off, they don't go into people's houses or run into trees and hits the bollards. Kind of like what we did at El Portal by Leucadia Glass. We added some rigid bollards. But those are basically preventing if somebody goes off the roundabout hitting the bollards instead of, that won't slow them down entering the roundabout.
Of course.
The idea I mentioned earlier tonight is to try to slow them down. But I do know that our fire department doesn't like addition of bollards on our classified road, even if it means they can just hit them and pass, but it would damage their, I mean, it's not going to be excessive damage, but I mean, yeah.
what about just painting in the road like slow 15 mile an hour? You know, like actual words painted on the ground, I find so effective. You know, everything from the green paint to bike lanes to, I mean, I love it when it's on the freeway and it tells you get in this lane for the 5 freeway, you know, down by Fashion Valley. I love how their freeways are all labeled. So I'm just wondering, even if something is simple like slow, I don't know that we could write the word roundabout, but, you know, as you're approaching, slow down traffic circle or something. So
Let me look into it. I do believe that the word slow was taken out of traffic manuals. There's no slow anymore. But we certainly can't put the speed legend, like whatever the speed limit is, or the advisory speed on the ground. That part we can do. But I don't think we can do slow anymore. Let me look into it.
Well, that's a bummer. I really like that.
Yeah.
I like slow down. Okay. Any other commissioners have questions?
Just these items, you know, these are things that have been discussed, the dates they were brought up, requested date mostly by this commission, versus the specific projects, the list we talked about, right? Those are big, meaty things. Things can still come up and be put here, correct? That are more, here's a topic we want to discuss. We're not saying we're going to do anything about it yet, right? That's what this list is.
Correct. So when this list started before my time, it was about, I would say, 6 months or a year before I started here in April 2018. This was a wish list for the commissioners at that point, where items that commissioners liked to see staff's help with evaluation, review would be put here, and staff at their time would tend to them, review them, evaluate, provide a response to the commission. It was called Traffic Commission's log, where, and as I mentioned earlier, for example, item number 57, as you can see, bike loop detection signage, it was almost exactly 2 years ago where Commissioner Wong brought it up, and it was supported by the commission. But gradually, when this list became longer and longer, and the items going in their price tags were, I mean, the column was added, the fiscal impact. The ones that had like a very low cost impact, we're still handling them. So many of them would have dates in front of them, and we'll treat them the same way. 3 months after they're put here, 6 months after, I'll bring back an item and say, Commissioner, remember 6 months ago you asked me to evaluate speeding situation at this corridor. This is the data, this is my evaluation, this is what I think can be done. Price tag is $5,000, $10,000, we can do it, it's okay. But many items would get on here, but will not really progress anymore because just off of experience, we know it requires a new striping plan being developed, it requires a mini roundabout being developed. There's a Vulcan pit path here, Chair Hunsberger's favorite project that has a price tag of $2-3 million that we don't have. There's Lucadia roundabout, new roundabout, that's not the one that we cannot build. So there are stuff here that we know we cannot build. So that makes a lot of these items, as you can see, standing TBD.
And what are the grayed out ones? Completed?
Those are the ones that were either tackled or completed or
killed?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that helps, thank you. So, because there's one thing that's been on my mind a little bit, I don't think it'd be high cost, but Manchester, heading west, right after the sewage treatment plant and the entry to the parking lot for the park or the preserve area, it bends, and right before the stop sign where it goes up to stay on Manchester, you have to hang a right, essentially. There's white barriers, they're like freeway barriers that have been there for quite a while, and I know it's from runoff off that slope. Is there a plan? Is that permanent? Is there a plan to remove those? Any grading because there is zero shoulder there.
Yeah, that's not my division, but I can gather some information about it.
I'm just curious if that would be something to
No,
go
I know
across.
exactly what you're talking about, but that's not under traffic's purview.
That's all. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Well, let's start with 53, my favorite project. I know we got a grant for $800 and some thousand to be put towards the Hygeia roundabout. However, the fund, because there was like $2 million in there, got pillaged for some other project. So what's the status? I know now we've got grant money for it, and I did check in with Jill, and she said there is maybe a plan moving forward. Do you know what's happening?
No, she knows.
She knows. Okay. Can you look into that for next month, and just maybe Jill could give us an update, or somebody could give us an update on that? I'm hopeful. Cautiously optimistic. Okay. And then 71 and 74.
So 71 we did talk about earlier. So I
Yeah.
do know Caltrans did implement LPI. From what we've heard, they had issues with their controller not being optimized. Similar to our situation, we're upgrading to the later models that can handle that operation. From what they've told us, they did implement it for a few days, but the signal, I don't know if you noticed, they were saying it kept going into flash.
Yeah.
So it did go to flash, so you noticed. So because of that, they had to take it off, so it doesn't work on LPI. They are looking into upgrading their controller, similar to what we're doing, to be able to put LPI back.
So we had it for like a day, and it made the light go.
I don't know how long it was, but the response they gave us was that we did implement it, but then it caused the signal malfunction, so we had to take it out, and we're looking into upgrading our
Okay. Could
equipment.
you maybe also ask them, since they have to upgrade the whole signal, if they could give us a protected left-hand turn lane there, because that is.
Yeah, no, that would be an infrastructure. This upgrade that they're working on is just a cabinet upgrade.
Oh,
They take
okay.
out the
Dang
controller,
it.
they put a bigger controller.
Okay, well, shoot.
Newer
All right.
model.
Okay, thank you for that update. And then 74, follow up with Eola's community. I know you did meet, you spent
Yes.
some of your time and staff time meeting with the community. Can you let us know how that went?
I might have some good news. I don't want to say now, it's not final, but we might have some good news coming for you.
Okay, well, that's great news. Thank you. Okay, that's all I had on my list. Anybody else?
Abe, I do have a question, since we were talking about schools. On 65, it looks like traffic calming near their schools there, SDA Oak Crest, Ocean Knoll, and you have Sunset High in there as well. What what's involved with that? Are you still evaluating that? Are you satisfied with the stuff that's going in on Santa Fe and routes leading to the?
Many of these schools with our safe routes to school, we did implement certain improvements at many of those. So maybe this can move to gray. Thank you for catching this. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think if there's no more questions on that agenda item, we're on to C, city development project updates. Okay, if no commissioners have any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there is the last one a new one, the Preserve Project? Was that on there before? Just like in terms of scheduling, like when a new one goes on, that it's maybe from the prior month shown as new. I'm just curious, what would we could just ask a question about that?
Yeah, with these development projects, because we don't have a really active role, it's more of a passive informational only situation with these. If you have a question or if you want something passed to the engineer who is reviewing it, which fortunately tonight we have Matthew here. Matthew is our associate engineer who reviews our development projects. So we'll have our weekly and monthly meetings, and we meet with the planning department talking about these different development projects, their impact reviews, basically their environmental reviews. So if there is a comment from the commission, hey, we noticed that this project was submitted, it's being under review. Can you please make sure this specific situation is evaluated, or this safety concern is evaluated when the impact of this project is?
I got something for that then.
Yeah.
Okay. Where the entrance on that is slated on Manchester, it's right where the posting sign is about the permit application. It is literally on the bend of the S part of that turn, and coming from either direction. I don't see how any car pulling out of that proposed entry driveway for that development would see traffic coming from either direction. It's at a slope. East of it is the slope going up to it. Right around it, heading west, is a sharp bend, kind of drops and descends there. It just looks like the most ridiculous place for entry to that development.
Yeah, we're aware of that concern, and it is under review. We're evaluating it.
Okay.
We've heard it from other residents and our own team also.
I'm not against the development. I live right there in Santa Canyon, but that just seems ludicrous to me, knowing that road pretty well.
Yeah, we're aware. I haven't seen the calculations about the site distance, but we have received it from multiple residents, and yeah, we're on it. We're looking at it.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think we are now, if there are no further questions on this agenda item, we're on to Commissioner Corner. And this is where you can bring up any items that you have. So like the question that you had asked Abe earlier about, I now forgot because I'm tired, whatever that was, and he said he's going to get back to you. Sometimes this is where we do that, so it floated just nicely there. But if you have anything that's not on an agenda item, you can bring it up in Commissioner's Corner. Commissioner Gross?
Yeah, Abe, on the Moonlight project, which I can't believe we didn't take credit for the dredging project and bringing the sand back to Encinitas. That is such a good mobility win. We can walk on our beaches now. It's amazing. But they did not replace the bollards at the Moonlight roundabout right by the park. And so cars are literally there's been cars driving into the beach area. Yeah. Like it's the most awkward thing with like kids running around and everything. But those plastic bollards, someone took them and ran off with them. Well, I mean, they took them out when the big trucks were all in there. But they didn't replace them, at least as of Sunday.
It was done by our CIP team. I can talk to them and find out what happened.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Corner?
Oh, I just have a couple of comments. I think as a cyclist at LPI, getting that few seconds and depending more is better. But I think it is effective, and it helps me when I'm crossing an intersection. Another comment I'd like to make is that I've noticed that I really appreciate a buffer. And so just riding up Manchester as it goes into El Camino, just that short section there that you and your team put in, I mean, it makes a world of difference to have that buffer. And from the plan that I see over several roads, it's great that we're putting those in. So I want to compliment you on that. Really, it really helps out when you're riding along, and just even, emotionally, you feel like you have a little bit of room. It's super helpful. So thanks for doing that.
Well, if that's it, then we'll move on to item number 10, which is adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we, second? All in favor? Aye. Look, we got to vote at least once. End. Meeting is adjourned.